¿cómo están? Soy Manu Moreno.
¿Qué tal amigos? Soy Emiliano Coronel.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Mi nombre es Charlie Rey.
Hola, ¿qué tal amigos? ¿Cómo están? Mi nombre es César Cejas.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Yo soy Jorge Brauet.
Hola amigos, aquí Iván Barrera.
Hola, Horacio El Negro Hernández.
Hola, ¿qué tal amigos? Yo soy Oliver García.
¿Qué tal amigos? Mi nombre es Emanuel Mori.
Yo soy Percy Viñola.
¿Qué tal amigos? Soy Ricardo Cortés.
I'm Martin Miller.
Hola, buenas tardes a todos, soy Jeffrey Smith.
Buenas tardes a todos, saludos.
Hola amigos.
Dirty loops going on, yeah.
Hola a todos, buenos días, bienvenidos a otro episodio de Life in Music. Hello everyone. Mi nombre es Cristian Almanza, soy director de Music and Arts Institute y artista Casio Music México. Y bueno, pues muy emocionados, ya saben que cuando tenemos estos cambios de horario es debido a la disponibilidad de nuestros artistas invitados. Y pues este artista que nos acompaña hoy está muy lejos de México. Él está en Alemania, es alemán, radica allá. Y bueno, pues estamos muy contentos, de verdad, muy contentos de tenerlo. Somos grandes fans de él y nos ha dado el honor de poder platicar y hacer la sesión privada con todos los alumnos. Y bueno, vamos a ver su video biografía para que sepan de quién estoy hablando.
Benni Jud, bajista, cantante, compositor y productor alemán. Benni se encuentra activo en la escena musical desde muy joven, mostrando virtuosismo y versatilidad. Todo esto reflejado en sus composiciones y arreglos. En el álbum Honesty, lanzado en 2017, logra llegar a un público muy diverso, donde plasma parte de sus vivencias, lo cual lo hace un material más auténtico. Ese álbum tiene una combinación de pop y soul. Sin duda alguna, la visión musical fresca que da en cada una de sus interpretaciones traza el camino hacia una trayectoria que irá dejando huella en la historia de la música. Con ustedes, Benni Jud, aquí en Life in Music.
I never wanna see you cry like this again.
Hello, Master. How are you?
Hey everybody. Hey, hope you're having a wonderful day.
Yeah. You too.
Saludos de Alemania.
Muchas gracias, maestro.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much for being here with us and sharing your experiences. And
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you. Are you ready for the interview?
Sure, I am.
Perfect.
Anytime.
Let's do this. So, how did your path in music start? At what age was the bass your first love?
Yeah, so my personal musical journey started in 1995. So that was when I started classical piano lessons. My oldest brother, I got two older brothers, and my oldest brother took piano lessons at our home. So there was a teacher coming from the next city, and he was teaching a bunch of kids in our street, and my brother used to be one of them. And so I got into touch with classical piano first, and I took lessons for about 6 to 7 years, I guess. Then due to my brother again, he's 9 years older than me. He's been playing a lot of drums, and he's been in the semi-professional kind of scene. And he's also he was earning some money with music, and so he always brought this very cool music home. So he was playing a lot of soul, R&B, funk, pop music, obviously. And so I was super interested in all of that because it was around all the time. And same with my dad. My dad used to play drums in our basement to records of like Eric Clapton, Phil Collins, and so that was all around all the time. And yeah, we had like a very large jazz department in the high school my brothers went to. And so I got very inspired by having like a jazz band thing going on, and I wanted to be part of that when as soon as I got into high school. And like the only instrument that was missing to fill the gap was the bass. And my brother always told me like, hey, you should learn the bass. It's really cool, and you will get a bunch of jobs, and you will have so much fun playing this instrument. So he actually kind of forced it on me. But I fell in love with this instrument immediately, and I took it as my challenge to learn this instrument. And as I said, I fell in love with that. And I played along to like all the records that I heard from my brother and my dad. And yeah, so I started out learning by ear only. I took lessons like 2 years later. And I also like I was a part of this school jazz band then. And so I figured out my way to play that, and here I am today. Like 20 years later, I'm a professional bass player, and I couldn't be more happy about it.
Es curioso cómo la mayoría de los bajistas toman el instrumento como tú lo hiciste.
It's curious that the majority of bassists take the instruments the way you did.
Mm-hmm. ¿Por qué crees que sea esto?
Why do you think this is the reason?
I don't know, actually. I think, but the image of the bass in itself is changing a little bit. I think it's getting cooler, like with every year. So whenever I go to the NAMM show, for example, I see a lot more bass players popping up than guitar players, actually. So I think, like, still the public recognition of the instrument is not as large as it is for guitars, and still, I mean, every bass player knows that a lot of people still think that we are playing guitar with a little less strings.
Yeah.
And but I think there's a change coming, and so I don't know. I really don't know. I think it's a wonderful instrument, but it's something that is not as obvious,
such as like a guitar is, or maybe a piano, or like a lead singer. We're not like the front row guys, standing like having one feet on the monitor and being the superstars of a band. But yeah, I still think there's a change happening right now, and I'm very happy that the instrument is actually getting a lot more recognition these days.
We got to explain to the people how important is the bassist functions. Don't you think?
I think the bass player has a lot of power over the dynamic range of a band or of a group, and most bass players aren't really aware of this power. I think we're capable of putting a musical situation onto a next level. We can like create so much tension with the style that we are comping, or like we can change the harmonic content by just changing a root note into like a third note, or like any other tension or chord note, and we can open up some new worlds. So I think the bass player is like the binding element between rhythm and harmony, and I think that's a very, very interesting role as a musician on stage, because we can really make the most out of a musical situation, and if we got a good drummer next to us, I think we're a very, very powerful duo.
Yeah, of course. You got an explosive way to do all your things, and all the basses have to understand that you are so
Yeah.
powerful.
Right.
I think there's a lot of power and a lot of responsibility, and a lot of bass players just fulfill their job playing root notes, and I think there's much more to it than just that, especially in these modern times when so many songs are bass line driven or even like designed around a bass line. I think of stuff like Charlie Puth, or I don't know, like modern music is often very, very bass heavy and based around a very cool and powerful bass line. So that is like a perfect example of how much power we actually have in a live situation, in a recording situation, production, and we should be aware of that, and we should be aware of the responsibility that comes with it.
Yeah, of course. And who are your greatest influences?
Oh, I get that question all the time, and it's very, very tough to answer because I'm not as geeky when it comes to bass players. I always was very interested in bass players or musicians in general that have a lot of character. So when I talk about bass players, I usually name Pino Palladino, who's my god, because he's like a perfect combination between a song player but still very capable of playing solistic stuff or like fill-ins and super creative bass lines as well. But ever since I started like songwriting and singing and composition, I also went to university for composition. So I started out to be very, very interested in writers as well. And again, when I talk about bass players, so Paul McCartney, all of a sudden Paul McCartney was a huge influence on me when it gets to songwriting, or Sting, or I don't know, like Rush, Geddy Lee, but all along, like with a lot of other great writers. And I had a teacher in composition that always said, in German this is a rhyme, but in English, if I translate it right, it is like, those who write, they will last forever, so they will be sustainable. And I took that advice and started writing a lot more. So I got probably a lot more influenced by writers than like actual bass players. I truly appreciate bass players. I love John Patitucci, how he plays. I love Marcus Miller, especially if he's playing with other bands or being a writer for other bands. Of course, his compositions are great too, and a wonderfully arranged and sound and slap, and I love it. But I love the stuff he did with Miles Davis. I love the stuff he wrote for movie scores. He's one of those players that is more of a writer than only a bass player, I think. Although he's very, very much he's very famous for his sound and slap and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I love players that are writers and that are thinking in a writer's kind of way too, because you can hear it that they think of a bigger picture than just their original part. So yeah, I guess these are some of my greatest influences.
Me siento identificado contigo porque una de mis más grandes influencias es David Foster. Yo soy guitarrista, pero él es un pianista y compositor.
He feels really identified with you because David Foster, he is really good composer.
Es uno de mis más grandes inspiraciones.
It's one of his greatest inspirations.
Yeah, right. I think as instrumentalists, we have a responsibility to be open for anything, and I always say they're like instrumentalists and they're musicians, and I always try to be a musician as much as I can, and that served me really well so far.
Es una excelente forma de pensar.
It's an excellent form of thinking.
¿Y quiénes son tus referencias en el bajo actualmente?
Who are your references in the bass today?
Um,
well,
new bass players.
New bass players. Okay.
Well, there's been a change in the bass kind of scene. I think it became a lot more common to work as like in soloing, to work as solistic parts, and I think like Yannick Gwizdala is one of the major influences on all bass players. Also, the whole educational system has changed a lot. So I used to have a couple of students coming over, and a lot of them were so well educated already. And I asked them where did they get this knowledge from, because it was so profound and so good and so well developed. And all of them said like, oh yeah, I took lessons from Scott's bass lessons. And so Scott Divine, dude, you're a master. It's such a great school. It's wonderful content, and I only can say like this has changed the majority of the bass players in the world, I think. And also we have this new kind of style of like solistic players, as I mentioned. For example, like Hadrian Ferrod, who is like a reincarnation of Jaco Pastorius to me. And he took it to like a more modern level. And and he's also used to be a friend of mine, or is a friend of mine, and we talked about that. And it's funny, like this stuff came so natural to him, and he's just so natural in playing that style that I think a lot of bass players are influenced by that and just adapt this new way of playing, like this super fast scale playing. I think that is a new level. And so I would say like the bass play, or the bass playing today, has a lot of sideways going on. So it's very cool to have this solistic approach. It's very cool to have this jazz approach. It's also very, very common to have this overall perspective, like Scott Bass Lessons is teaching. And I kind of like all of it. So there are so many great players, and I think the communication and the new way of communicating is making it a little easier to get your knowledge from like the original source, and like just find something new within it. So yeah, I think everybody has his own hero now, and that's totally fine.
Yeah, and you are an incredible bass player. In what way have you developed your language? What are the tools that helped you the most?
What helped me the most was training my ear and training my intention, I think. I didn't learn like the classical way because I wasn't able to read when I started playing bass. The only way I learned was I was having I had this Discman back in the day, and I would use the earbuds to take into my ear, and then I had this Ibanez bass combo where I could plug in a headphone as well. So I would plug in the earbuds from my Discman into my ears, and then I used my headphone to go over those earbuds like that. And so I could play along to what I heard. And my ultimate goal was to be as congruent as possible with the original bass line, so you could actually hear no difference anymore. And I think this trained a lot of intention. And so when I started to like know all the lines and know all like the positions that are working for a certain song, I started to just play around those and try to discover new elements. And this is more of a audio visual kind of perspective than it was from like a knowledge base from theory or from rhythm. So I think like when I always compare it to what Victor Wooten is teaching as well. He's telling like that music is much more of a language than we think. How does a baby learn how to speak? By listening to its parents, also by watching how the parents speak, how they use gesture and how they use like the tone and all of that. It's like only watching and listening, and I think that's the most powerful way to learn in 2020 as well. I learned a lot by listening to others. I learned a lot by maybe listening to other instruments as well, and this is something I want to teach up to this day. Always listen to what's going on around you in the conversation. Are you an active part of the conversation, or are you a passive part in the conversation at the moment? This is a more philosophical approach, but I think the best way to learn is train your ears first before you want to give names to anything that you do, because once you have a deeper understanding and a deeper intention in the things you do, I think it's easier to come up with names, and that is exactly what happened to me. So I learned how to read and harmony like with 16 or 17. So I just learned the names for stuff I already knew by ear, and that was a little easier. I think it's not as abstract as to like learn the note system, learn the harmony system, because some people, and sometimes they're right, regard it as like rocket science.
Very complicated, but
it's not that complicated once you know the language already.
Claro. Y la composición también te ayudó a desarrollar tu estilo como bajista.
And did composing also help you develop your style as bassist?
Yeah, absolutely.
It made me define my role as a bass player in my original songs. So I think I developed a little more of like a common taste of what I wanted to do in like other productions and other compositions, and it made me more respectful towards the compositional or the arranging part of music as well, because it's a craft. Like just learning how to play an instrument, it's a craft to learn how to arrange and how like parts can interact with each other in the best way. So that absolutely influenced my playing a lot.
Something that surprises me about you, the way you play, is that your choice of notes is impeccable. For example, in Little Wing or Africa's Solo, it is a masterclass of how a bass player should play.
Well, thank you.
I truly appreciate that. I'm very
critical with myself, so I partly agree.
Yeah, so
there's always, I mean, it's when you do a recording like we do with the Martin Miller Band, this is always a snapshot of the time, of the day, of your daily form. It's never like a perfect representation of yourself, and it could never be. But yeah, I mean, it's honest.
It's honest, and
mistakes are fine sometimes, and we try to keep it real with these videos. And of course, sometimes a note is blue, and sometimes a note is green.
Algo que me gusta mucho de tu interpretación en Little Wing,
something that he likes a lot about your interpretation in Little Wing,
es que para mí entiendes perfectamente lo que debes hacer.
For him, you understand exactly what you must do.
Tus adornos son en el momento que deben ser.
Your details are in the moment that they are supposed to be.
Thank you. That's a huge compliment.
¿Cómo es que lo piensas? How do you think your bass lines?
Well, I let like. I don't really think too much sometimes. Again, like as I trained my intention and my ear in the first place, I think most of the times I let like the intention guide me the way to what's happening, and also with players like that in the room. And Little Wing, for example, was something very interesting because it was the very last song that we recorded in the very first session we did. So I knew Martin before, and I didn't know the other guy. So we just met like a day before we recorded Little Wing. And I was on tour in 2016 when we end of 2016 when we did the first session, and I was exhausted the first day, so I wasn't really happy with with anything I performed on the first day. And so the second day, Martin kind of wanted me to give like a little more spotlight, and he asked me if I wanted to do like a Little Wing, and I said, yeah, okay. I sung it a couple times, and no problem. I love the song, and I just do it. And we came up with like this very unique arrangement. Like we started very, very high, other than the original. And I think with players like that, they give you back so much in the conversation, in the musical conversation that is going on. So you're actually you're very fine to just sit back into like this bed of sound, and let somebody talk and take over the conversation from time to time, and that will guide you the way. And sometimes it's cool to just imitate a line, or like picking up a certain rhythm. And this is like a very, very respectful kind of jam culture, I guess. So we did jam a little bit, and we still do. And we try to inspire ourselves by just like imitating stuff, and like maybe taking a little melody here and there wherever we thought we had a little spot to do it. And so yes, I said again, like I don't really overthink it. Sometimes I plan it a little bit, especially like when I do like a larger fill, and kind of my thing is to go over bar lines with fills, and that is a lot of times this is due to because I'm lost, and I'm still trying to resolve what I heard. Okay. To be completely honest, but yeah, this became like part of my playing, and a lot of players know me for that, and they love it, so I take it.
that song, yeah, it is so smooth, so with musical taste for every one of you, and so surprises me the keyboard solo.
Yeah,
because it has just a little notes. Tiene pocas notas, a few notes,
really few notes,
but it's so expressive, so powerful. And well, you as a band complement that.
Thank you. Yeah,
I think we're having a very solid band kind of spirit, and we kind of carry the soloist very well, I think, and that is because everybody has so much respect for one another. For example, Marius is a more of a quiet guy, but he has it's just the tip of the iceberg. Like it's a huge personality, and I think this personality becomes very obvious when he's soloing or playing organ, especially. And I don't know, I can compare it to a lot of great players that probably we both love. Like take B.B. King. B.B. King could play a whole chorus of one note, and it will be so expressive that you're not missing anything. Why shouldn't this be applicable for a keyboard player as well? And yeah, having masters like that in the room, I think it's our job to put them in the best light we could with our part of the musical conversation. So make this word he says as powerful as possible, and yeah, I'm very, very comfortable in this kind of band situation because they know their craft so well that this is never a question.
Great. And how has working with Felix Lerman been? The work you do together is incredible.
Thank you. Well, Felix, first of all, is a amazing person. That makes it a little easier to work together as well. No, he's like a very, very funny person and obviously an amazing drummer. Probably one of the best, if not the best, drummer that Germany has to offer in terms of like his versatile playing and his very, very strong articulations and groove. And he knows so much about music, and he's a true music lover. And I've never seen a drummer in my life putting in so much effort in every take. Like, he's the guy that puts in as much power from the first take till like the very last take. And he always plays like it would be the last take of his life. And I never had this experience with another drummer to be as energetic as he is. And but at the same time, he's a very, very sensitive person, and very sensitive about his sound as well. So he's spending quite some time to tune all his drum set. Also, like the selection of snare drums and cymbals. He's putting in a lot of time to think about stuff like that, and I think that is very audible. And also, he's always aware of what's happening around him, and he knows where his spots are, I think, and it's just so much fun, really.
Y para ti, ¿qué es lo primero que debe hacer un bajista al tocar por primera vez con un baterista?
For you, what is the first thing that a bassist should do when he plays for the first time with a drum player?
Good question. The very first thing is get to know the person. I think that's much more interesting, because I know a lot of drummers that are very introvert. They're not really representing the style they play. For example, we have a wonderful drummer in Cologne here. His name is Hendrik Smock, and he's a phenomenal player, like a world player, really. And he's a very introvert person. I only played like twice or three times with him, but I see a lot of his Instagram stories, and he's playing the hell out of the drum set. So this is not a clear representation of the person, but once you understand the person and you get to meet the person, you understand the playing even more. So maybe he just chooses his instrument to be like something to put in the energy that he says when in his character, for example. And one thing that really helps, and what I try to force myself a lot of times when I lose it, is look the drummer into his eyes when you play together, and you will have a very, very clear connection that is leading you more or less, because once your eyes lock, you're kind of like in the mode of, okay, what you gonna do next? Come on, tell me. So you're having a conversation like in real time, and so the visual aspect is to me is very, very interesting and very important to strengthen the connection between drummer and bass player. But also, obviously, of course, never forget to listen again. If the drummer is laying down a very solid groove and you're looking for your spots to find a bass line or to put in some fills and stuff like that, so you should always listen to it, of course, too. So do not let like the visual aspect only guide the way, but try to look for the conversation that is going on, because that's what music are. And not only with the drummer. A lot of people tell me that they really like my approach on being on stage in general, and that I'm very connective with everything that's happening around me. And I wasn't really aware of that until I saw a couple of videos of myself, and I really was the only one on stage, like looking around and was looking for some connection with my co-musicians. And I think that really helps to have a strong connection. And this is something we do with the Martin Miller Band all the time. And maybe you can see that when you when you watch our videos. I think you can see that we're actually looking at each other and try to complement what we hear. Yeah, and we're actually trying to complement if we hear something that we like, with just a glimpse, or like, yeah, that was nice. I imitate that and stuff like that. So this is a true and honest communication. Yeah.
You got some badass face in Toto's medley.
Not only there.
Yeah. So, esta es una de las respuestas más interesantes que me han dado acerca de la interacción con otro músico.
This is one of the most interesting answers that they have given him about the interaction with the other musicians.
Yeah.
But it's true. It's about connection. It's about feelings. Not only about notes and rhythmic. And
yeah, absolutely. And I think that's we're running in danger to forget that sometimes.
Yeah, and can you tell us about your soul in Africa's theme?
Yeah, sure. So that is more. Actually, to be completely honest, I didn't really want to add a solo part, like a real solo part. So we actually regarded this part as more of like a bass kind of interlude. So that's why we didn't cook it up a little more and kept it on a very, very low dynamic, I guess. And obviously, like you know from the original recording of Africa, this is it's already in there. So I tried to make this original thing my starting point to think about that. So I kept it in this pentatonic kind of approach. And Martin changed some chords then into like a minor 6 or like more of a Dorian kind of sound for the music geeks out there. So I tried to apply that here and there, and I think I played some melodic minor a little bit. But other than that, I tried to keep it very simple and not as far from the original kind of timbre that the people are used to know or used to hear from Africa. And I loved Africa ever since I heard it for the first time. So I didn't want to like butcher this bass part in there. And yeah, so that was my thinking process behind that.
Great. In addition to playing bass, you also sing and do it at the same level. When did you start singing professionally? And let me tell you that my wife is a big fan of you.
Well, yeah, the singing part is always more interesting for women in general because they didn't. A lot of women do know the difference between a guitar and a bass, but
sing too.
But it's always a little easier if you
have like a voice to go along with that.
Yeah, if you want to like
just have it as a more song kind of thing to do. Well, I started out singing in the jazz band in high school. We had a wonderful singer here in Germany that was playing some big band jazz, but with very cool German lyrics. And unfortunately, he passed very, very early in his life, so with only 38, I guess, due to a heart attack, which was super sad because he would have revolutionized the whole jazz thing in Germany, I think. So he did like three or four albums with a large jazz band, big band music, with very, very funny and cool lyrics, kind of like Sinatra-ish, so that approach. And we took some of these arrangements into our jazz band then, and they were looking for a male singer. And I always sung in the choir and like at home, but never really thought I could do it as good as bass playing or so. But yeah, I stepped up and said, okay, I think I could do it. And so that was the like my first steps in singing and having like a jazz band. And I've always felt very comfortable in singing jazz because my voice is a natural baritone. And I just felt very comfortable because a lot of like jazz tunes and jazz standards as well are in a very low key for me to sing. So I felt very comfortable. And with all the pop singing, that came later. I joined a lot of top 40 bands later in my career to earn money with music. And so I always did backgrounds, and like in most of bands, every once in a while they would ask like, "Yeah, you could do a couple songs as well, like lead singing," and I said, "Oh, okay, sure, why not?" So I tried to figure out the stuff we already played with different singers, and I tried to learn it, like just like play the bass part and sing at the same time, which took some time, obviously, and still is challenging up to this day. Depending on the bass line and the melody, of course. But yeah, it's just so much fun to me. And I think it gives the bass playing a little more of a songwriting, again, like a bigger picture. And so I love to write on bass and vocals only. I love to play bass and vocals only. For example, like in Honesty, my very first vocal and bass only song that I ever released. But sure, probably not going to be the last one because I just love this combination. Yeah, so that was my voice journey.
¿Y esto qué puertas te ha abierto, el poder cantar de la manera en que lo haces?
And what doors has opened for you in the way that you've been able to sing?
Oh, a lot of doors.
I think like the main door into a touring scene like opened up very widely because, let's be honest, they want to save money as much as possible when they try to organize a tour, and it's always better for them to have an instrumentalist that is capable to sing, at least some background vocals, than like having to hire 3 or 4 more background singers. And so I think that opened quite some doors. And I don't know. Sometimes I thought I should charge twice as much because I was the lead singer in a band, and actually I did 2 jobs. And sometimes I even brought like the PA system and the mixing board and did the sound as well. So I thought, yeah, I should charge like 3 times as much.
But that didn't really
happen. So, but yeah, I think it opens a lot of doors, and not only for yourself in a career thing, but also in a spiritual and in a very philosophical way, because you're all of a sudden you think about the big picture and you think about your role as a bass player regarding the lead part of the song that is actually leading the conversation right now. So you're having like a passive part, and then you can fill in the gaps because you know where they are. And all of that was very interesting to me, and still is up to this day. It's a challenge to play bass and sing at the same time, because we don't have like a rhythmic movement that we could like strum through or rely on. like a lot of guitar players have, especially if they play like only rhythm guitar. But yeah,
Lines, meanwhile, sing lines.
I try
to train that as much as possible.
I think.
And a fun fact,
I was playing with a flamenco pop band when I was 17, 18 years. And so they played a lot of like Ricky Martin and some
Cuban music as well.
And so they made me sing over like tumbao bass lines, like an el barrio La Cachimba se ha formado la coredea. And once you get that in your system, you can actually play along with that. And yeah, that was just super interesting, and I think it opened my horizon a lot.
Very difficult.
Yeah, absolutely, especially if the bass line is syncopated.
Yeah, I think every musician have to sing.
Yeah, or at least should be able to hear his or her inner voice and be able to translate it to another instrument. And I think if you got a inner voice, you can translate it to any instrument that you're given. So I'm completely sure that I don't know anything about saxophone or so, but I know that if I'm looking for a line and I go hunting for it on the instrument and I develop some kind of technique, I can come up with this line that I have in my head after I don't know a while that I'm playing around, because I can just translate it. Same with the language. Once you got the possibility to express yourself with a word or with a phrase, and you can translate it via Google, so you get the result, right? And I think it's the same thing for music as well.
Great. Can you tell us a little about the rehearsal and recording process at the live sessions with Martin Miller? As a singer and as a bass player?
Yeah. So this is what usually happens. We meet, I don't know, like 2 to 3 times a year for 2 to 3 days. One day is always setup day, because it's so much gear right now, and we stock that up every time. So we found a cool system that is working for us to set up very fast. I have a Midas M32 mixing board that I bring along, and we record through that, and we got a sound engineer over there, and we got our scene in there, so we can just pop that up, and we got our monitor mixes set up. Our microphones are more or less staying the same at the moment, but we were experimenting with that a lot. But yeah, all we do is like 1 day of setting up and then 2 days of recording usually. And so Martin is usually putting together like the stuff we play, the set list. And whenever we do a larger medley, he usually cut like the original versions together, and maybe comes up with a transition into like another song. And then before we record it, we like tweak the transitions maybe, and just play through the whole thing like once or twice before we hit record. But yeah, having these kind of level players, they come very well prepared. So everybody knows his stuff and prepares on its own. And then we put it together in the room. And as I said, like with these high level players, it's a very, very comfortable way to work, because you don't have to deal with like wrong chords or wrong lines, or like actually watch each other practicing the stuff, because the practicing really happens before we meet, usually.
There's some exceptions.
And what has been the biggest challenge for you when recording with music legends like Paul Gilbert and Andy Timmons? It must be tough.
Yeah, it's very tough, and it's challenging because you have this adrenaline in your body that you're actually meeting a living legend right now. Um, but it's very, very important as a professional bass or like a professional musician, I think, um, to know when you need to be on your A game. And I think like situations like that, working with high level stars, it's very important to stay calm, to stay cool, and stay focused, and leave like this fanboy moment, maybe for either before the recording or after the recording, because there's going to be a serious conversation going on. And but I gotta say, like people like Paul Gilbert or Andy Timmons, they make it very easy for you because they're so easygoing persons and wonderful characters, and they give you so much energy, and they give back so much. So that's really, really easy. And but I wouldn't treat it any different if it was an even larger star. So we just need to stay focused in such a moment, because we want to make like the best result possible in this moment, and to kind of gain this kind of confidence. I think it's crucial to think about stuff like that
before you actually meet somebody.
¿Y cuáles son las mayores lecciones que tú has tomado de ellos? ¿Qué es lo que más te han enseñado?
What are the greatest lessons that you have gotten from them? What are the most things that they've taught you?
Especially with Andy Timmons and Paul Gilbert, both of them were so joyful. They were so joyful about their music, about their songs, their playing, and also so excited about this new musical situation. And at the same time, super open-minded for any kind of like requests or things that we were talking about. So they wanted to give us the spots that we deserve as well. So they're I think I could learn a lot, like character-wise, and I definitely wanna stay as joyful and as passionate as they are. As soon as I hit like the 50s or even 60s, I don't know. That is like the biggest lesson that I learned, and also like the way they listened to us as well, and the way they gave us or like the kind of respect that they offered us was just super inspiring.
Great. You are so known for producing. What do you look? What do you look for in the musicians who record with you?
Yeah, I do produce a couple artists as well, and same thing. I want to find like the best representation of what I think their character is, and I'm usually thinking about music, especially when it comes to original music, that this should be the most honest representation of yourself. Because in times of social media, I think people know when you're faking something. They immediately can tell if you try to be something that you're maybe not, or maybe if you talk about topics that you don't really know anything about. And so I always try to know the characters of the artists that I've been working with, as well like their original voice or their original style of playing, and I want to integrate that, and I want to put that in the best light possible. And again, this is like a true craft and a true something that you need to hone very carefully, because once you kind of lose the authenticity of it, I think it's very hard to get back to where you started. Yeah. So, and especially when it comes to songwriting as well, this is very, very important, I think.
Took me some time too.
¿Y cuál es tu rol como productor ya en el momento de trabajar?
And what is your role as a producer in the moment when you're working?
Well, I usually record and write. That's like my main thing. Mixing, I do a little bit, and I love to do it because I think it's a very creative process. But I just love to craft songs with an artist. I love to write lyrics, although I'm very slow at writing lyrics at the moment. But yeah, I always try to keep it as creative as possible. So here in Germany, it's not like in the US, or I think in like the bigger music markets in the world, that you have these clear separations of jobs. So once you're a producer, a lot of times you are the mixing engineer as well, because the artists don't have the money to actually pay for another engineer to be the mixing part, or a lot of times you are the instrumentalist, and you're working on most of the instruments on the record as well. So our role as producers, I think, has changed a lot over the last couple of years, and we're more of like this chameleon kind of guys that slip into any role that is involved in the recording and releasing process. And this can be a problem, I think, because I think the best results come from fresh inspirations and from a new pair of ears that is maybe adding something interesting to the conversation. It would be the same thing as if you played with yourself all the time and never played with the band. This can be cool. I mean, Ed Sheeran shows it in many ways, but at the same time, I don't think it's like always the very best representation of what could be possible, or what could be made out of a product if you involve like the great characters. And kind of my way of thinking is, me as a producer, I'm kind of like the boss of the process, right? And I rethought my philosophy about that. Like 10 to 12 years ago, I probably would have thought like, okay, I'm the boss, I'm the producer. I always have the best ideas, and people rely on my decisions. People still rely on my decisions, but it's not my job to have the greatest ideas. I think my job is to have to surround myself with the people I think have the best ideas for the product that I'm working on. And I just need to be, or we as producers need to be open for influence, because that is what telling stories. And you probably know that you can get stuck in detail so fast, and you lose the view on the bigger picture so fast. So it's always cool if you have people that you trust and respect to come in with fresh ideas and new inspirations to keep the process fresh.
¿Sería un consejo que le darías a los que quieren ser productores?
Would it be an advice that you wanted to give to the people that want to be producers?
Oh, what was the advice that I would give? What I would give them?
Que si lo que acabas de comentar sería un consejo que les darías.
If what you just commented would be something that you would be given as an advice.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. Surround yourself with other creatives and talk about creativity, talk about music, talk about problems that you run into in your productions, because I think the conversation is what's given you the most inspiration to continue the process and to keep you fresh along the way. And I think it's a very modern kind of phenomenon that producers suddenly all of a sudden are like every other part of the process. I don't think that is healthy, because you don't want to put that much pressure on your decisions. without having like any second thought about it, or maybe having somebody that you trust come in and listen to it, and maybe make you rethink some stuff before you just blindly release it. It's I think it's never really the best way to do something.
Claro. Y podrías, can you tell us about your work as a composer? It's your way of thinking different as a composer and as a producer?
Well, it depends on the genre. It's depending on the genre. If I'm songwriting as a composer, in a more kind of pop music approach, I'm already thinking more of like a producer would think. So maybe I think about what kind of sound we're looking for. Maybe I think about the mixing process already. So what we can do with effects, and what can we do with some signature sounds here and there. But if I'm writing like for arranging, or writing for like a jazz combo or a jazz band, I wouldn't say that I'm really thinking about like my role as a producer in that moment, because this is more theory based and more constructed in a way. I think there's a huge difference between songwriting and like composition for like large ensembles, like a jazz band or an orchestra, even for a string quartet or something like that. There are more rules, if you say so, and I think about being a producer as well when I'm songwriting for somebody or for myself as well.
Okay. ¿Y podrías hablarnos de tus viajes a Los Ángeles?
Can you tell us about your travels to Los Angeles?
Sure. I've been going to LA for
I don't know, like 7 years, and I started out to go there to go to NAMM show, and I got an invitation from my bass builder and my amplifier builder, and I still work with Elixir, and so they asked me if I wanted to come and do some presentations here and there on at their booths. And so I did. I always wanted to go to LA. I've had a strong connection with the US before, because our school, jazz band again, had a very close partnership with a high school in Connecticut, and one in Chicago and in Oregon. So our school jazz bands traveled back and forth as an exchange kind of thing, and we always stayed there for 2 weeks. We're touring around a little bit, and we did that like 4 or 5 times in my time in high school, which was a super nice experience, and shaped my connection to the US in general, and also to the language, I guess. And so I traveled back and forth LA the last 7 years, and I, like 5 or 6 years ago, I started to just spend a little more time there after NAMM or before NAMM, and just like driving around, visiting studios, get to know people, maybe go to a jam session, maybe play a gig even, maybe try to find a studio session that I could play in. So I just developed like a little network, and like last year I've been there for 3 months, so that was the longest period of time that I spent there in a year. And I gotta say, like this creative spirit happening in LA is very inspiring in many ways. There are super bad social problems, and it's becoming very, very obvious if you walk through the streets of LA, like having homeless people, and like on the other side of the hill you have these super rich like movie stars that basically flying around with their helicopters to go grocery shopping. And so this is like a very strange situation to me, having like both sides of the coin, where so much wealth hits such poor people. And this is something that really bothers me in the city, but in the creative way, And in the creative spirit, I gotta say this is like the capital of the world when it gets to that, especially because of Hollywood. The film industry is a huge inspiration for the music as well, I think. And also, what I really like in LA about in comparison to Germany is that a lot of producers, a lot of musicians are super open to meet, about talking about their experiences, sharing experiences, giving tips and recommendations if you starting out in the city. And this kind of support, sometimes I'm missing that here in Germany, because a lot of people are a little how do you say, like protective with their surrounding, with their network, with anything they accomplished, and they're not really willing to share anything of that. And this is the complete opposite in LA, as far as I experienced so far. Everybody's up to meet, at least for a coffee. Everybody would love to meet, and they give you the impression that they could miss out on something if they don't give you a chance to meet you. So that is how I met Mark Needham, for example, one of the greatest producers in the world. He produced Fleetwood Mac, and Pink and Elton John and like countless others. And all I did was hitting him up on Instagram and said, man, I really love what you do, and I would love to talk about your experiences, and I would love to show you some of my music. Maybe you like it. And he would say, yeah, sure, come over. So that would never happen in Germany. Usually you need to be somebody before you got the right to write somebody that is already somebody.
¿Y no has pensado en mudarte a Los Ángeles?
Haven't you thought about moving into LA?
Creo que te iría muy bien viviendo allá. De hecho, hay muchos latinos que emigran a Estados Unidos y son parte importante de la escena.
We think you would do really well over there, and there's actually a lot of Latinos in there, and
y les va muy bien en la escena musical.
Oh, and they have they do really well in the music theme.
Yeah. Well, I thought about
moving to LA plenty of time in my life. But yeah, due to the social reasons that I mentioned before, I don't know. It's getting really hard for me, because I'm super how do you say, like I'm super rich right here. Although I don't have like a huge pile of money, but I feel very, very rich over here. I got a lot of friends over here. I got a cool studio that I'm able to work in every day as long as I want. I can record anything I want at any time of day, and I got all my instruments here. I got all the stuff I could need in the world right here. And this is actually my song Starstruck is exactly about that. So I always thought I need to move to LA, because I wanted to be up there, and this is like the place to be, and it definitely is the place to be. There's so much going on, but at the same time, you're so busy with just surviving so many times, because the competition is on a whole different level. And so I came up with this kind of strategy that I want to have this creative injection every once in a while, that just soak up the spirit from LA and take it to my surrounding, and let creative things happen out of that new spirit that I experienced over there. And yeah, also I know a lot of Latinos over there, and in fact one of my good buddies, Nick Ornelas, who's a bass player there too, is from Mexico originally, and we're still in contact a lot, and and he would borrow me a bass amp if I played some gigs last year, and so that was really nice of him. And he's doing quite well. He's doing a lot of corporate gigs to just make a living out of it. He's teaching a lot, and obviously this is possible, and I think it's a great way. But I gotta say, like I think, or maybe I just think this for myself, that I could be a lot more creative over here, and just like take this spirit and let myself get inspired from that every time I go there. But I gotta say, every time I go back, I'm super inspired, and I always write a ton of songs and produce it right away. So I think going back and forth is not a bad idea. And yeah, so for now, I want to leave it like that.
Qué gran respuesta, y me parece que también tiene que ver con tu sensibilidad como ser humano.
What a great answer, and I think it also has to do with your sensitivity as a human being.
Absolutely. I just can't stand the situation, like having so many poor people in one city where like the majority of citizens is super rich. And I don't know, it's against my philosophy, and I'm very, very sharing with anything I do, and I just can't stand that situation. And I'm very happy that the country I'm living in is so supportive and has such a strong social system, and that makes me really proud of this country. I gotta say that something like fairness and like just the spirit of sharing is still very, very active here. And you probably know that we took like over 1 million war refugees last year, and I think these are like the moves that are very, very sustainable and lasting in a human life. And yeah, that makes me proud in such a situation.
Sí, de hecho nos acaban de dar una lección con todo esto de la pandemia.
Yeah, actually, they just give us a lesson with all of this, of the pandemic.
Ustedes ya salieron de eso.
You're already out of that.
Well, not really. We're scared of a second wave like everybody else is. I don't know
how we actually could get out of this so well till now. I mean, we had some sacrifice, but not as many as our neighbors did, and I think this is due to our very, very strong health system that we have here, and we have a lot of beds to offer in our hospitals as well. So we actually, at the end of the first wave of this pandemic, we were able to get over some people from France because they were really suffering a lot under the pandemic. And yeah, but I'm super scared about a second wave because I see that a lot of people are not as aware of the virus anymore, and I think they're taking it a little too easy now. Of course, it's super bad for our industry at the moment, but I think we're not quite through the situation yet, and we still need to be careful. There's no medication, nothing we can do. And I just had some cases in my surrounding that were really, really serious, and so I already caught myself like being as easygoing with it, and so that made me rethink again, because those cases were really, really serious, and they were about my age. So yeah, it's not over yet, unfortunately.
Sí, es una situación complicada en todo el mundo, pero algo que admiramos en México es...
It's a really complicated situation in all of the world, but something that we admire in Mexico is...
Es tu cultura.
Your culture.
Y la forma que tienen de pensar.
And the way that you have of thinking.
Tenemos mucho que aprender de ustedes.
We have a lot to learn from you.
No, likewise, we all learn from each other. I wish we would just
communicate. a lot more.
Vamos a pasar a esta pregunta que es institucional.
We're gonna go to this next question, which is institutional.
Okay.
Y es, ¿cuál ha sido tu decisión estúpida?
Which is, what has been your, say, stupid decision?
Y déjame explicártelo.
Let me explain.
Esto surge por una anécdota de John Mayer.
This surges from something on John Mayer. It is a story about him.
Que él deja Berkeley.
He leaves Berkeley
para hacer su carrera solista.
To go forward on his solist career.
Y la gente le decía que era una decisión estúpida.
And people told him that it was a stupid decision.
Así que, ¿cuál ha sido tu decisión estúpida?
So what has been your stupid decision?
Wow. Yeah. Well, I don't think it was a stupid decision for John Mayer to do that, because obviously he knew what he was expecting from his career, and I love his Berkeley masterclass where he's telling defining your expectations, and actually that's a philosophy that I truly understand, and I truly think in the same way. I think my stupidest decision.
We got you again.
Here we go.
So,
I don't know.
We were halfway through your answer. We didn't hear the whole thing.
Yeah, right.
I said that I truly understand the philosophy of John Mayer, and I don't really think it was a bad idea for him to quit Berkeley, because he already knew what he was expecting out of his career, and this is a philosophy that I truly understand, and I think in the same way. I think like my stupidest decision was to not take my original music as serious as I do now, because I thought I was knowing what makes a great song, what makes a great composition, but I wasn't ready to share anything of that back in the day, and right now I'm thinking maybe I should have just released it a little earlier, and take the possibility from that to grow, other than keep it as a secret and just releasing it with 27. So it's still young, I know, but at the same time, I think this original music journey is giving me back so much more than all the sideman stuff I did over the years. And so I sometimes just hoped I would have released it a lot more and a lot earlier in my career, but maybe the time wasn't right.
Vamos a estar apoyando tu carrera y esperamos con ansias esas nuevas canciones.
We will be supporting your career, and we will be waiting we will wait anxiously for your next songs coming out.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, 2 weeks. 2 weeks. I can't get enough of you coming out. And along with a very, very sweet video that we shot, you're going to love that. It's just positive vibe only. And I think that's what the world needs now.
¿Podrías decirnos el nombre de la canción?
Can you tell us the name of the song?
Yeah, it's Can't Get Enough of You.
Okay. Muy bien, muy bien. De hecho, he visto tus transmisiones en vivo.
Actually, he has sung your live transmissions.
Yeah, I played it a couple times.
And the great thing about it is that I actually created the song in a live stream. So you can check out my YouTube channel, and there's a starting a song from scratch title. And I think it's 4 videos and 4 parts to it. And I started this song from scratch in a live stream. I played the guitars in a live stream and came up with the chord progression and somewhat like the melody that is the final melody already. So and I had some of my community members to send me some choir voices, so they could just record it with their iPhones and send it over to me, and I implemented that in the production in a live stream as well. So that's a really fun one to watch, and I think the result is really cool. And it's very cool to have some people from all around the world in my choir section at the end of the song. There are people from Ecuador, from New York, from New Zealand, and that's such a cool thing. My neighbor, it's really cool.
Vamos a esperarla con ansias.
We'll be waiting it anxiously.
Y sé que va a ser una gran canción.
He knows that it's going to be a great song.
Eres un enorme músico, pero aún más grande persona.
You're a great musician, but even better person.
Thank you so much. Likewise.
Vamos ya prácticamente a terminar la entrevista.
We're going to practically end the interview.
Y quisiera que hiciéramos esta sección.
I'd like to do this section.
Que se llama Decisiones.
Which is called Decisions.
Okay.
Te presento dos escenarios.
I present you two scenarios, and you have to choose one.
Okay.
5 strings or 6?
5.
Okay. Componer o producir?
Compose or produce. Sorry.
Compose.
Okay. Playing bass or sing?
Oh, that's tough. That's like the same thing for me.
Both. Equally.
YouTube or Instagram?
At the moment, YouTube.
Okay. Composing pop music or jazz music?
Pop music.
Okay. And the last one. Grammy as a composer or Grammy as a singer, as a big star?
Okay, as an artist. Grammy as an artist.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Master, for your time. Sorry.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Gracias, de verdad estamos muy emocionados por haberlo tenido aquí.
Thanks. We were so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Hubo muchas personas escuchando la entrevista.
There were a lot of people listening to the interview.
Y le están comentando que tiene nuevos fans en México.
Hey, they're commenting that you have new fans in Mexico.
Oh man, you're so sweet.
Y siempre vamos a estar aquí para apoyarlo y cuando tenga algo que anunciar.
And we'll always be here to support you, and if you have something to announce,
esta es su casa.
Thank you so much.
This is your home.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much, everybody.
This has been so much fun. You're great people, and we are definitely going to stay in touch.
Darnos unas últimas palabras para nuestros alumnos y para sus papás.
Could you give us some last words for our students and the parents?
Sure. Keep on studying. Keep on doing what you love. Respect everybody, and especially the musicians you play with, but everybody else in the same way. And I hope you get through this crisis very easily and well and healthy. That's the most important thing. And let's just connect in music, and let's communicate. Let's change the world for the good as far as we could, and stay positive, everybody.
Muchas gracias. Thank you very much. Y si me permite, le voy a presentar a nuestro artista invitado de mañana.
And if you allow us, we're gonna present the next artist that's gonna be with us tomorrow.
Yeah, sure.
He's a big rock star. His
Bon
name...
Jovi.
Ojalá. I wish. I wish to. Porque este es un gran artista latinoamericano.
Because this is a really great Latin American artist.
Es el maestro Marciano Cantero. Es el bajista y cantante de Enanitos Verdes. Es una leyenda. Y bueno, no hay persona en América Latina que no conozca sus canciones.
It's Master Martin Cachero, and there is no person that doesn't know his song. He's a singer in Enanitos Verdes.
Oh, nice.
Y bueno, también es mañana, 19 de julio, a las 5 de la tarde, hora de México, 7 de la tarde de Argentina. Muchísimas gracias a las personas que también hicieron posible esta entrevista. Estamos muy contentos de cómo ha crecido Life in Music con artistas de talla internacional. Y bueno, pues vamos a ir a la sesión privada, maestro.
All right, we're going to the private session
with the students. Así que bueno, conéctense todos y thank you very much, master, for your time. We love you.
Thank you so much. We love you too.
Thank you. Nos vemos.
Nos vemos.
Bye.
Gracias a Julián que estuvo aquí traduciendo. Y bueno, sin él no sería posible esto. Thanks, Julian.
No, eso no.
Gracias a Julian.
Gracias, maestro. Nos vemos.
Bye.
See you.